I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and I want to get this off my chest because I really don't know what to do anymore. My wife, Emily, and I have been married for about 5 years. We had what most people would call a good relationship, fun, mostly peaceful, and honestly, I was pretty content. She's a fiery woman, always had a sharp tongue and a way of pushing people's buttons, but I loved her attitude, her independence. That is, until everything fell apart. Things started feeling off about 6 months ago. She started working late more often, and I noticed her phone buzzing constantly. She'd brush past me if I tried to look at her screen, become defensive if I asked about her whereabouts. Still, I kept telling myself she was just busy, maybe some new project at her job. She was always quick with lies, though, little things, excuses about meetings or client dinners. Nothing concrete, but enough to make me suspicious. I even caught her hiding her phone once when I walked into the room, quickly shoving it into her purse and giving me that "don't you dare ask" look, but I didn't have any proof, so I let it slide. Then a week ago I was laid off from my job. It hit me hard, completely knocked me out of my routine. I was already in a pretty fragile state, feeling insecure and embarrassed. Emily's reaction was cold and dismissive. She said, "Well, it's not like you were ever the breadwinner anyway," with that bitchy smirk of hers. It stung worse than the layoff itself. I thought maybe she'd be supportive, but instead, she just kept throwing little jabs, making me feel worthless. I tried to talk to her about how I was feeling, about what losing my job meant to me, but she just rolled her eyes and told me to get over it. That was the moment I started noticing even more strange things. She became even more distant, less affectionate, more irritable. She'd go out with her friends and stay out late, claiming she was just unwinding. But I knew she was hiding something. I found receipts in her purse from a well-known local bar, one she insisted she never visited. She started snapping at me if I tried to ask about her. And I caught her changing her phone password, which she'd never done before. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something big. And then last night I finally saw it, the message that made everything click. I was lying in bed, scrolling through my phone, trying to distract myself from the knot in my stomach. I saw her phone on the nightstand, unlocked. I hesitated for a second, then picked it up. I wasn't really snooping, I swear, just trying to see if she'd finally texted me back after I'd texted her earlier. But then I saw it. A string of texts between her and someone named Mike. And the messages weren't just friendly banter, they were flirty as hell. Things like "can't wait to see you tonight," and "I've been thinking about you all day," and even a few that crossed the line into explicit territory. I saw pictures, too, her in a skimpy dress, him sending a shirtless selfie. I felt like I was punched in the gut. The worst part, I saw enough to know they've been secretly texting and meeting up behind my back for months. My mind was spinning. I couldn't believe it. My wife, my partner, the woman I trusted implicitly, was cheating on me with my own brother. And the worst part, she's always been so bitchy, so manipulative, always lying through her teeth. I knew she'd deny everything if I confronted her directly. But I had to see her reaction, I had to make her admit it. I needed clarity, even if it shattered whatever was left of our marriage. So I set my plan in motion. That's where I am now, trying to figure out what to do next. I waited until she got home from work, which was around 7 p.m. Usually she'd walk in, toss her bag on the couch and start complaining about her day, but tonight she was unusually quiet. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. When she finally stepped inside, I just looked at her and didn't say a word. She looked at me, already sensing something was wrong because I was dead serious and borderline furious. "Hey, what's wrong?" she asked, trying to sound innocent, like she had no idea what I'd found. That bitchy, deflecting tone. I didn't let her get away with it. I pulled the phone out of my pocket and placed it on the coffee table. "Tell me, Emily, who is Mike? And what exactly are you two doing? Because I saw the texts, I saw the pictures, I saw your message where you said 'can't wait to see you tonight.' Are you serious after everything? After I lost my job and was at my lowest point, you're out here cheating on me with my brother." She blinked, then scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Oh, please, Jake, you're overreacting. That's just a little flirting, that's all. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Mike's just a friend. We've been talking about the kids, about stuff, nothing more. You're being paranoid." I felt my blood boil. Paranoid? You've been sneaking around behind my back for months, haven't you? Meeting up with him, texting him, probably having sex with him. How long has this been going on, Emily? How long have you been lying to me?" She crossed her arms, trying to look annoyed, but her voice cracked just a little. "Look, Jake, I don't owe you an explanation. I've been stressed, okay? With your stupid job loss, I just needed some comfort. It doesn't mean anything. And Mike, he's just a friend with benefits, no big deal. We're not even serious. Besides, I don't have to answer to you." That's when I saw it, the venom in her eyes, the way she twisted the truth into something cold and calculated. I was done playing her game. I told her, "You think I'm stupid? I saw the messages. I saw the pictures. You're cheating on me with my brother and you have the nerve to lie right to my face. How did I miss all the signs? How long has this been going on?" She scoffed again, then started crying, but not because she was sorry. It was more like she was angry that I caught her. "You're such a loser, Jake. You've been spiraling since you lost your job. You're pathetic, honestly. And if you think I'm going to sit here and explain myself to you, you've got another thing coming. I don't owe you anything anymore." I felt a mixture of shock, rage, and heartbreak all at once. The woman I loved, the woman I had built a life with, was lying to my face, and not just lying, she was cheating on me with my brother. The betrayal cut so deep I could barely breathe. I wanted to scream, to punch something, but I just stood there, trembling. I told her she needed to leave, just go. She looked at me one last time with that bitchy smirk on her face, then turned around and stomped out, leaving the door slammed behind her. I was left standing there, clutching my fists, feeling like the ground had just opened beneath me. I kept thinking about everything I'd lost, my job, my confidence, my sense of stability. And now my wife was out there, probably with him, probably having sex with him, lying to my face. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there, staring at the wall, wondering how I'd been so blind for so long. How could she do this to me? How could my own brother? I never saw it coming, and honestly, I don't think I'll ever fully recover from it. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding, and everything else just felt numb. I kept replaying last night's confrontation over and over in my mind, trying to make sense of it, trying to find some clarity amidst the chaos. The worst part was knowing that this wasn't just a fling or some stupid mistake. It was serious enough for her to lie, cheat, and meet up with my brother behind my back for months. I felt betrayed on every level, and honestly, I hated her for it. But what cut even deeper was the realization that I'd been blind to it for so long, swallowing every excuse she threw at me. I spent the day trying to piece together what I knew, reading those messages again, looking at the photos, trying to remember any signs I might have missed. And suddenly everything made sense. The late nights, her sudden indifference, the way she'd blow me off when I needed her. It all pointed to the fact that I was just a fool, some guy she settled for while she was sneaking around with my own brother. That realization hit me hard, but it also ignited a rage I didn't know I had. I wasn't just going to let her get away with this. By late afternoon, I decided I needed to confront my brother, David. I couldn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself. I had to hear it from him directly. I took a deep breath, called him, and told him I wanted to meet up. I told him everything I knew about the texts, the meetings, the sex. His voice was defensive at first, trying to deny everything, but I had the proof. I read the messages to him, told him I knew all about their secret meetings. He stammered a bit, then finally admitted that they'd been seeing each other for a few months. Said it just happened, that it wasn't a big deal. Yeah, right. That was a moment of clarity for me. I knew I couldn't keep pretending I was okay with any of this. I told him if he ever tried to contact Emily or get involved again, I'd make sure everyone knew what kind of scumbag he was. I also told him that I was done with both of them, that I was going to take some time to figure out what I wanted to do, but I wasn't going to be part of their sick little game anymore. I hung up feeling a mixture of anger and heartbreak. I'd always known my brother was a little shady, but this was beyond anything I could have imagined. That night I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the wall, feeling more broken than I ever had before. I kept thinking about all the times Emily lied to me, All the times I brushed off my suspicions because I didn't want to believe the worst. I felt stupid, naive. But at the same time, I felt something else, something darker. I wanted revenge, not just in a petty way, but to really make her understand what she'd lost, what she'd thrown away. I knew I had to come up with a plan, something that would hit her where it hurt. I didn't want her to walk away unscathed from this. I wanted her to feel the pain she caused me in a way she wouldn't forget. I started thinking about how to do it, how to make her regret what she'd done. I knew she was manipulative, so I had to be smart. I decided I'd gather more proof, every message, every meeting, every lie, so when I confronted her again, I'd have everything on my side. But more than that, I wanted her to see me standing tall, not as the broken man she thought I was. I'd show her that I could survive this, that I could come out the other side stronger, even if it meant destroying her in the process. I guess I wanted her to understand that betrayal isn't just a punch in the gut. It's a lesson she'd never forget. Over the next few days, I threw myself into gathering every shred of evidence I could find. I wasn't going to let her lie her way out of this again. I went through her phone, her emails, her social media accounts, anything that might give me more proof of her ongoing affair with my brother. I wanted to make sure that when I finally confronted her, I'd have everything laid out clearly, with no room for her to spin her usual lies. During this time, I also started reaching out to a few friends I trusted, just to get some perspective. Mostly, they told me to calm down, to think about what I really wanted, but I couldn't. I was too furious. At her, at David, at myself for not seeing it coming. I spent sleepless nights packing my apartment, planning how I'd call her, how I'd tell her the game was over. I knew she'd try to deny, to manipulate her way out of it, so I prepared myself for whatever bullshit she'd throw at me. I was done playing nice. Finally, I decided I needed to do this face to face. I didn't want to hide behind texts or calls. I wanted her to see my anger, my pain, my resolve. So I set a time to meet her at a coffee shop, the same one we used to go to together. When she arrived, she looked tense, like she knew I was finally onto her. I sat there waiting, my heart pounding, my fists clenched. "Emily," I started, voice low but steady, "I know everything about you and Mike, about you and David." Her face went pale for a second, then she scoffed and tried to brush it off. "Oh, Jake, you're just jealous. You're losing your mind because I'm not interested in your pathetic life anymore. You think I'd cheat on you with your brother. That's just sick." I shook my head slowly. "Don't lie to me. I saw your messages, I saw the pictures. You think I'm stupid. I know how long this has been going on. I know you've been sneaking around, lying, betraying everything we had. How could you do this? How could you be so selfish?" She looked furious now, her eyes narrowing. "You're crazy. I told you I needed someone to talk to. I was stressed. And Mike was just a distraction, a way to forget your stupid problems. I never meant for it to go this far. You're blowing everything out of proportion." She paused, then added with that bitchy smile, "And honestly, Jake, maybe if you had been a better husband, more attentive, less useless, I wouldn't have needed Mike or anyone else." That was the moment I finally saw her true colors. The arrogance, the lies, the manipulative bullshit she always pulled. I felt my stomach turn with disgust. I told her I was done with her lies, her cheating, her fake apologies. I said I was going to leave, take some time to think, and figure out what my next move was. I told her she'd better pack her things and leave because I wasn't going to tolerate being a fool anymore. She looked at me, eyes full of contempt, and spat, "Fine, do whatever you want. You're nothing without me anyway." That's when I realized I'd lost her, not just to another man, but to her own worst instincts, her greed, her lies, her manipulation. I got up, told her to get out, and walked out of that cafe with her yelling after me that I'd regret throwing away the best thing that ever happened to me. I didn't look back. I just kept walking, feeling a strange mix of relief and heartbreak. But I knew one thing for sure, this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. After that confrontation, I felt like I was in a fog. I didn't exactly have a plan, but I knew I couldn't just sit around and let her continue her lies. I had the proof now, and I was determined to use it. I kept digging through her stuff, pulling out every message, every photo, every piece of evidence I could find. I even started recording some of her calls, just in case I needed to show her or my brother what she was up to. I wasn't going to let her get away with this without consequences. Meanwhile, I moved out of our shared apartment. I didn't want her to think I was just going to roll over. I got a cheap place nearby, just enough space to breathe and think. The more I thought about everything, the angrier I got. Not just at her, but at myself for trusting her for so long, for ignoring all the signs. I kept asking myself how I missed it, how I could have been so blind. But deep down, I knew that I'd been blinded by love, by hope. And now, all I had was a bitter resolve to do what was right, no matter how painful it might be. I also reached out to a lawyer, just to get some legal advice about the situation, mainly to understand my options in terms of separation or divorce. I wasn't going to be a cuckold forever, and I wasn't going to let her manipulate me into staying if I knew I deserved better. The lawyer told me I had grounds for a divorce, especially with proof of her infidelity and emotional betrayal. That was a small relief. At least I knew I had some power to fight back if I wanted to. As the days went on, I started planning my next move. I knew I wanted to hit her where it hurts, but I also didn't want to stoop to her level. I decided I'd confront her again, this time with everything laid out. I wanted her to see the full scope of her betrayal, and I wanted her to understand that I wasn't going to be a doormat anymore. I wanted her to realize that she'd lost the best thing she ever had because of her greed and lies. The thought of her losing her false sense of control made me feel a little better, a little stronger. I was finally taking back some power. One night, I sat in my new apartment, going through all my evidence again when I realized something. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about me reclaiming myself after being shattered. I'd been so broken I almost forgot who I was, someone who deserved respect, honesty, and loyalty. I realized I'd been wasting too much time feeling sorry for myself, so I decided that no matter what happened next, I would come out of this better, stronger, smarter. I knew she'd come back or try to manipulate her way into convincing me to forgive her, but I wasn't interested anymore. I was done being the fool she thought I was. I was done with her lies, her bullshit, her betrayal. This was the beginning of a new chapter, one where I finally put myself first. I could only hope that in the end she'd see what she lost and regret it, but even if she didn't, I was going to be okay, because I was done playing her game, and I was done being her fool. The day I finally decided to confront her with everything, I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and relief. I had spent so much time planning, gathering evidence, preparing myself mentally, that when the moment finally arrived, I almost didn't recognize the calmness inside me. I knew what I had to do. I had everything I needed to end this chapter once and for all. I'd made up my mind that I wouldn't let her manipulate me anymore, that I wouldn't be the guy she could walk all over. I was tired of feeling like the victim, tired of feeling broken. This was my moment to take control. I called her to meet me at the same coffee shop where I'd confronted her before. She showed up looking smug, like she still thought she could talk her way out of it. I sat across from her, pulled out my phone, and started going through the messages, the photos, the recordings I had. I laid it all out, proof of her affair with Mike, her meetings with David, her lies, her manipulations. I told her I knew everything, and that I wasn't going to play her game anymore. At first she tried to deny everything, twisting her words, claiming she was set up, that I was jealous or paranoid, but I just kept showing her the evidence. Her face started to drain of color as she realized I wasn't bluffing. Her arrogant smirk faded, replaced with panic. She stammered, trying to come up with excuses, things like it was just sex. It didn't mean anything. I was stressed, but I cut her off. I told her I was done listening to her lies and that I'd already made my decision. I told her I wanted her to leave, that I wanted her out of my life for good. And then she finally broke. She started crying, real tears. This time begging me not to do this, saying she loved me, that she never meant for things to get so out of hand. But it was too late. Her tears didn't fool me anymore. I saw through her. I saw the manipulation, the lies, the selfishness. I told her I didn't want her love anymore. I wanted respect, honesty, and loyalty. Things she'd lost the day she decided to betray me. She left that day, just like that, walking out of my life, finally realizing that I wasn't coming back. I watched her go, and in that moment I felt a strange sense of liberation. I'd spent so long trying to hold onto a relationship that was already broken, trying to fix something that was beyond repair. Now I was free. Free to start over, to rebuild my life from the ground up. In the aftermath, I took some time to reflect. I realized that betrayal teaches you some hard lessons about trust, about yourself, about the importance of standing up for what you deserve. I learned that sometimes the biggest act of love you can give yourself is to walk away from someone who doesn't value you. I also learned that revenge isn't about hurting others, but about reclaiming your dignity and self-respect. Now I'm focusing on myself, working on my career, rebuilding my confidence, and making sure I never let anyone treat me like that again. My trust is shattered, sure, but I know I'll heal. I've learned that the only way to truly move on is to accept what happened, learn from it, and never let anyone degrade me like that again. Life's too short to waste on people who don't value you, and I'm finally starting to see that. I hope no one else has to go through what I did, but if you do, remember, your worth isn't defined by someone else's lies or betrayal. Stand up, take control, and never settle for less than you deserve.